The purpose of this video chat tonight is to find out a bit more about the team behind the team. Mark Fell and his team, already quite familiar to many of the Workington Football Club family, but this chat tonight will give an insight into their backgrounds. First of all, it's just a general chat, and you know, how did you arrive at Workington? What was your route to get there? And from your experiences, you know, what you're going to bring to Workington Football Club. So that's basically it, really. And we'll just go around the table and, you know, ask questions to each and every one of you. I think they put Graham on the spot, first of all. Graham, Lancashire, great career in the Football League and eventually non-league. What do you think will be the biggest difference between the professional game and working at non-league? And are they becoming more similar roles as time's gone on?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me is obviously the time you get with the players, the time on the grass training. It's, you know, when we can have them for, sometimes it's only 2 hours a week when we've got a game on a Tuesday night. It's difficult to implement everything you want to do with the players for each game sort of thing, and train and just implement what you want to do with them on the pitch. So it's difficult. I think time is the main factor. As you said, you know, a lot of the non-league clubs now are sort of hybrids or even full-time, majority of them in the National League and National League North as well. So, you know, they're getting more time. So it's more difficult for the ones who don't have the time on the grass with the players. So I think that's the biggest difference for me. I mean, apart from that, I mean, the work ethic and the work that the staff put in behind the scenes for me is equal to a full-time employment. You know, it's unbelievable, really. I've worked in the full-time at Burnley, and I've worked on the outside on the part-time, you know, in the non-league system. And for me, you know, they're putting as much work and effort in the non-league than they do in the league as well. So yeah, that's for me.
Billy, I'll put the question to you. Being the longest standing member of the backroom staff as it stands, and having seen many keepers in your time at the club, what would you say are the qualities you look for most in a goalkeeper?
Well, we've talked about this before. Just the willingness to keep the ball out the net. As simple as it sounds, it's not everybody has it. Not everybody has that drive and determination to not want to concede goals, even in training, in games. A will to work hard, a will to come every week and be a good member of the group as well. Goalkeeping, the little goalkeeping group, it's myself and 2 or 3 goalkeepers. Work closely together all the time. They've got to really back each other, help each other, push each other, drive each other for improvements. You've got to be really resilient, robust, almost single-minded in their approach a lot of the time as well, because they're coming there for themselves, but also themselves driving themselves on. He's driving the other keepers on as well. So it's a strange little situation.
Revolutionary, Billy, isn't it? Absolutely revolutionary that we want
the ball out the net.
Keep the ball out the net. And that, you know, in all seriousness, though, that is people getting hoodwinked into the modern game. And, you know, I'm not sure at what point distribution became more important than keeping the ball out the net. But I hear it all the time. And yes, you want keepers to have more layers than just that, but the first job is stop us conceding goals. You know, that's one of my frustrations, I think, with the way the game's going and the what people think is now the way to do things. You know, let's just have a goalkeeper first and foremost who's brilliant at keeping the ball out of the net. The rest of it, we can. I mean, you can work on, Billy. That's why you're here. You know, to work on the rest of it. But ultimately, you know, it's like defenders. We want defenders who can defend first and foremost. We want defenders who are brave and, you know, will win their aerial duels. And it's ironic. It's funny, really. I got sent and I get sent videos and, you know, little pen portraits of pictures that are players that are left certain clubs or whatever. And I got 2 today, both centre halves, both coming from a championship club, and they've both been released at 18. And I watched these 2 videos, centre halves, in about I watched 18 minutes of video I didn't see one header. I didn't see one tackle. Centre half, not one header, not one tackle. But the suggestion was that these players could come and play in non-league now. And call me old-fashioned, but let's have people do the basics of what we want them to do first in their role, and then let's build on it from there.
I'll bring Craig Rutherford into the discussion. Craig, a UEFA B licence under your belt already. What would you say is your most memorable experience so far in your coaching career?
Well, apart from coming on board with Mark and his team, probably the promotion season at Barrow, and not the actual promotion really. It was my second year working at a professional level, and it was the first year really that Ian Everett, the manager, and Peter Atherton kind of showed some trust in me to deliver on the grass to professional players and have a voice in the changing room. So they trusted the advice I was given was what they wanted me to give, and I had a voice in the changing room before the game, half time, after the game if I wanted one. So for me, that was one of the most memorable from being part of a professional team, and that's continued since joining Mark and his team at, when we were at Lancaster, and now coming here. I know it's a joined experience where everyone's opinion and feelings matter, and at the end of the day, we'd feed our thoughts and opinions. And Mark will then make the ultimate decision, but you definitely feel part of a team that's all on the same page and all wants the best for whatever team they're working with. So
I'll bring Maddie into the discussion. And apart from keeping these four guys in check, what skill sets are you bringing with you and from your day job, and what do you see as being the biggest benefit to Workington Football Club?
So first of all, I definitely don't have that skill set to keep these guys in check. But so my day job, so I work for Manchester City, so I'm a designer. So I design the website and the app mainly, which doesn't really feel like there's a lot of crossover. But my main role is to figure out user problems, understand people's problems in their day-to-day life, and then try and fix that through technology. So you could argue that there's kind of a bit of a holistic approach to what I have to do in my job, in the day job, which will hopefully transfer over to here. So whilst I'm not going to be designing a website for the players, or I hope I'm not going to be designing a website for the players, I'll be able to help, work through their problems, understand what they're going through, so that when they do cross that line onto the pitch, they're in the best position to play and deliver what we and the fans kind of need of them.
Next point I would put to you all, and this is a general question to everybody: how did you get into football? And perhaps Mark can kick off this side of the debate with his route into football.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, just going back to what Maddie was saying just a minute ago, I think we're fairly ahead of the curve in terms of having somebody like Maddie amongst our staff and having that dedicated sort of person really responsible for players' well-being. We live in a different world than we did, 10 years ago, and players have different challenges now. Non-league players have different challenges to the challenges they had 10 years ago. There's different things that we've got to consider when we're working with them to try and get the best out of them. So I think that really wider, holistic approach to well-being and to, not even just the basics of knowing families and knowing the pressures they're under, knowing, how many kids they've got, knowing, all those pinch points throughout the year. And I think that having, somebody on the coaching staff who's got that eye on the players that they can trust and that they can confide in if needed, or we can use Maddie to refer them on to other agencies if we need to. I think that's a really positive step for us, and I don't know a lot of non-league clubs that have really dedicated a resource to that. So I'm hoping that will see a benefit, to the club moving forward. And I know that the reason we've got Maddie here is that she's demonstrated those skill sets, through a media work that she did with Lancaster, for example. And we get the added benefit, and we've already seen a lot of the impact that she's had on our media here at Workington, just through, her being busy and getting involved in that as well. So, yeah, that's. I just wanted to go back and touch on that, but yeah, I think my pathway has been probably slightly different to others, where it's been effectively a pure coaching pathway. I worked at Accrington with the 18s, and then actually my first job in non-league was through Chorley. I was on Paul Lodge's staff at Chorley in 2005, I think it was. And when he left Chorley and I left Chorley, he was offered a coaching role at Preston. Decided it wasn't for him, but put me forward for that. So I went and worked at Preston for 8 years with initially sort of the 10s, the 12s, and eventually up to the sort of youth team aspect of the role at Preston. And ironically, Paul Simpson was there for quite a while. He was the first team manager for quite a while. And then from there, it was more a case of me going into the non-league game. So, Nelson initially, and then over to Ramsbottom, and then obviously to Lancaster for the last 5 years. So all that alongside a career in education and, teaching and learning and management. So I've tried to put all my experiences from, not just from the game and the coaching aspect, but from work as well, and trying to mould me into the manager that I am.
Thank you, Mark. Can you pick up on that, Graham, and tell us your career path so far?
Yeah, well, as long as I can remember, I've always been involved in football. I'm from Blackpool. My dad was the secretary of a football club, so inevitably we were dragged around everywhere when we were younger. So, yeah, luckily I managed to get a contract at Burnley when I was 16. So I spent my few years at Burnley, went on to Preston, Wigan and Rochdale. And then after the pro game, I sort of wasn't really involved for 2 or 3 years until my youngest got involved in the girls' side of it. And then, as you do, you get dragged into helping out when the manager doesn't turn up and things like that. So through them channels, I ended up working with the girls at Burnley and the young boys in the academy, so the 9s and 10s, quite similar to Felly. And eventually I ended up being academy operations manager and just working with all the age groups right up through to the 23s. So from there, I took a step back. It was quite a demanding job, so I took a step back. But in the meantime, Felly got in contact when he was at Ramsbottom and just said, "Look, do you want to dip your toe back into kind of thing?" And we just took it on from there, really. And so we've been together ever since. And I think we've helped each other along the way, and we don't always agree with everything, which is brilliant in a management side of it. So we've always got opinions. I loathe to admit that he's usually right, but we've always got an opinion. Oh, sorry, he's always right. But we've all, like brothers said before, everyone's got a valued opinion. Obviously the buck always stops with a gaffer, but from there we've just worked really well together.
It's like a weird marriage, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But you keep calling me Dad, so
yeah, like me Dad. Yeah, there is that.
Switching to Billy, you've been involved in the reserves at Workington. You've also ran the Reds ladies team, and more recently involvement in the first team. So can you add to that what you've done in your career so far?
Yeah, obviously, I was a goalkeeper, played at Fleetwood, Celtic, Whitehaven, working reserves for a bit. And then in my coaching, I did a little bit, like you say, with the ladies, got right back into it with them, ended up getting the opportunity to run the reserves for a couple of seasons. Then by proxy, ended up helping Bones in the first team when Dabba took ill for a little while. Spent the season there, and then I was offered the chance to go to Penrith as assistant manager. Just around the same time I was doing my B licence, which was handy for me. Then I took Whitehaven for a couple of years on my own. But the goal for me was always to get into goalkeeping coaching, but the opportunities, especially in this county, outside of the professional game, the opportunities are non-existent. So luckily, Danny offered me the opportunity to come in last year as a goalkeeping coach, and I've absolutely loved it. Love it so much so I'm doing it now in the off season as well. I love doing it. I'm still learning. I'm looking forward to working with Danny and Alex this year and continuing my development and hopefully helping them improve as well.
Obviously, looking higher up the scale, what do you think about the future of goalkeepers currently in the England squad, James Trafford and Dean Henderson?
It's fantastic, isn't it? We've got a great record for producing goalkeepers in this county. Tony Craig played for Charlton and number 3 at Newcastle for many years. We've had Scott. There's been 500 odd games at the top level, still bringing trophies at Man City every year. And Dean from Whitehaven and James now from Cockermouth, with a fantastic record of producing keepers. Don't know what it is. Don't know. It's something in the water or the air or the farms or something. I don't know. But it's fantastic. Long may it continue.
Switching to Maddie, you've been involved a few weeks now, and are you getting used to the club and the setup?
Yeah, it's good. Obviously, it's a bit of a journey for some of us coming up there, but it's been great to kind of get to know people, get to know the town. Obviously, we had the kit launch the other week, so we were sat on a bus driving around Workington, being shown all the sites, which was a nice education for someone who hadn't been there before coming to the football club. So that's been nice. Obviously, as Mark touched upon slightly, me and Billy have been kind of getting involved a little bit in the media side of things. So all the work I did at Lancaster, I ran the media team there. So my work was very much around shaping that media team and coming up with a strategy to make sure that what we're putting out is what fans want to see and that they'll engage with it. And obviously then that drives your revenue in terms of your merch and your kit sales, but also people through the turnstiles, which we all know has a huge impact on performance on the pitch. So me and Billy have been working hard over the last couple of weeks, months on trying to help out with the knowledge and the skill set that we've got. And hopefully people are seeing that kind of upwards trajectory in terms of the media output so far.
And between you, who's the best bus driver?
Nobody. That was a long day.
It was a good day. It was a long day, but it was a very good day. And hopefully, we've
Mark almost gave up at one point.
I did. Yeah, he did. But hopefully, people, enjoyed the output. It was really interesting to kind of compare what we've done in the past in terms of kit launches and just try and do something a little bit different. Get fans involved. That was really nice to have the fans down there, and kind of they got to see a little sneak peek of the kit to get them engaged. So it was a long day, but
to be fair, sorry Billy, to be fair to Dav, Jordan and Cass, I told them that they were coming to get some pictures taken. So I thought, just come to the ground, lads, for 10 minutes, get some pictures taken in this new kit. And 2.5 hours later, they're getting bussed round.
Which is not what you promised you told them, by the way. You told me that you'd inform them everything. So we've learned something there about team dynamics. Certainly.
Yeah, so, but fair play to them. They were good sports and, they did what they needed to do.
I think the only concern was Dav missed his Sunday lunch, but other than that, I think it was a superb advertisement for the club. Well done to all.
It was, and it was a great concept by, I think, Maddie spoke to Richard quite a bit about it, and I think the whole concept of the heritage bus and the new tagline that we're using this year, the Rich History, Bright Future, it was just to marry them two together. I think it was a great idea.
Did you tell the lads that was the mode of transport for this season, by the way?
No, we've had some debate about travel this season already, but yeah, they were good sports, to be fair to them, and I'd like to have rewarded them with an extra week off, but they're not having an extra week off, so we're back in a couple of weeks.
Right, Mark, we'll put you on the under the spotlight. You've given fans as much insight on the goings on at the club and been very transparent about everything. A good update on the website the other day. What's the latest? Anything happened in the last few days?
Well, something happens every day. At the moment, it's that time of year. It's that time of year. I mean, what I would say is we will be, as a staff group, we will be as transparent as we can. I think I want to be as honest with people as we can be. I think supporters deserve a level of honesty from me and from the rest of the staff and from the lads as well. So it's not always kept me out of trouble, if I'm honest. But I think my style is to be as transparent as we can, obviously within certain parameters, because there's certain things that need to stay within the four walls of the club. I mean, daily now we're accelerating our recruitment. There's no question of that. I'd like to say it's been straightforward, but it hasn't. But that's not a surprise. I don't think anyone would be surprised to hear that it's not easy putting probably 2/3 of a squad together from a standing start. But I'm really happy with what's on the horizon. It's my job and the club's job to get them over the line. I think we're probably 90% there with maybe 4-5 5, and then things will just come. I'm really comfortable with where we are. I'm impatient, me, so I want to get it done now. I'd love to be able to say, announce 5 players tomorrow, guys, please. It's not going to work like that. It's going to be a bit of a drip feed. It's going to be something that is going to take some time, and it won't be ready. We won't be, we don't want to be fully baked until the week before pre-season. The week before the season starts. So things will develop as we go. But if you'd have asked me the question 3 weeks ago, I'd have probably said, it's not straightforward. This, I was getting a little bit nervous, but it's just you've got to give these things time, and things have, really, really ramped up in the probably since last weekend. We've got a few that are a bit trickier than others. We've got, unfortunately, you've got to deal with other clubs at times as well, and you've got to deal with agents, and you've got to deal with all that kind of thing. We've got at least one football club that's not behaving themselves at all over a player, and we've just got to navigate our way through some of the bureaucracy around that. So these things aren't easy, but the players we want to attract, probably don't come easy either. So I could have signed 15 players by now, but they wouldn't have been the right 15 players for this football club. And the profile of the player that we want is not just about how good they are on the grass at Borough Park or away from home. It's about whether they're going to fit into everything that we want them to do, whether they're going to fit into the change that's going to happen at the club, the mentality of it, the culture that we're looking to put in place, or we've already put in place. So, yeah, daily. We've got a staff meeting on Friday. Whenever this goes out before Friday. The staff are getting together on Friday. We've got a few hours to go through, the final pre-season preparations, which are pretty much there already. We've pretty much planned pre-season, but just roles and responsibilities, making sure everything's slick, making sure the lads have got everything they need, because I think one of the most important aspects of our job from a coach and a management perspective is that ultimately you don't want to give players excuses. You want to make sure that we've looked after everything that we possibly can to make sure they're as comfortable, as as ready for high performance, as fit, as sharp, all that sort of thing, so that they can never turn around to us and say, well, hang on a minute, you didn't do that. And that's part of the sort of the professionalism and the detail that's going to be so important to us moving forward. So there's so much going on, and that is the job. I always think managers are busier now than they are in the season. In the season, things just happen. It rolls. You bounce from Saturday, Tuesday. Saturday, you do analysis on Sunday. You prep Monday. You play or train Tuesday. You do the same Wednesday of prep. You go into Thursday, and then it's all match prep again for the Saturday. And it just happens. Whereas now, some days you're forcing it. Some days you're dropping a message to a player you haven't heard from for a few days. It's you become a salesman, which isn't, doesn't come naturally to me. But I think the product we have to sell is a good one. I've been so impressed with the football club, so impressed with I don't think you understand the size of this football club until you get into it. I don't think you understand the magnitude of it and what it is and what it could be, because that's critical here. What this club could be. Could this? I know we spoke about it, Steve, when I first appointed, but could this club live in the National League North? Absolutely, of course it could. Bear in mind, I was watching crowds of over 1,000 in a team that wasn't performing. That's not disrespect to anyone, but in a team that wasn't performing, crowds of over 1,000. I'm thinking, God, we start well here. We get rolling here. We put a product out there that's good to watch. We can swell that number, and all of a sudden, momentum just carries you through. So yeah, really busy, but I don't think I'd have it any other way at the moment.
Supporters have picked up on a different style of player that you've mentioned in previous interviews. What should they expect to see from your team that you put out on the pitch?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's an interesting one, because what's the right way to play would be my question. Again, the world of football is hoodwinked into what is now fashionable of the right way to play. So playing out from the back, the right way to play. What if you play out from the back but you lose 20 games on the bounce? Is that the right way to play? So we'll be multifunctional. What we want to do is our identity will be that we want to play fast football. We want to play between the lines and play forward. We're not going to hurt teams by making 20 passes on our own defensive third. if I'm a supporter of a football club, I want to see the team securing the ball in the final third and then playing. I don't want to see long ball, of course you don't. But I want to see us going into areas of the pitch where we're going to hurt teams. And we ain't going to hurt them by passing from centre half to full back to centre midfield to goalkeeper and doing that 20 times and inviting a press. Because we're not Man City. Me and Maddie have an ongoing debate about Man City, and there's times that I really enjoy watching Man City, but I really enjoy watching Man City when they go through the gears, and all of a sudden they're playing one touch and it's forward, it's fast. You can't live with them playing like that. There's other times where they bore me to tears.
It's when we do it with a purpose, isn't it?
Yeah, everything's got to be purposeful for us. So the play, what we will be is unbelievably structured. The lads will absolutely know their roles and the responsibilities with and without the ball. We'll play some great stuff, no question of that. We played some great stuff at Lancaster, play some great stuff at Ramy. You know, we will play when it's right to play, and we'll play good stuff. I mean, interestingly, there is quite a few teams in the Northern Premier League who have a reputation of playing lovely football, but actually watch it and break it down. Me and Lanky laugh about it all the time. That's why he's got a smirk on his face. Because what they do is they go from the goalkeeper who rolls it to the fullback, who plays it to the centre half. A holding midfielder drops in, he gets the ball, he passes it then back to the fullback, who booms it. But that's playing out from the back because they've made 3 passes. Well, it's not. It's not playing out from the back at all. So it's a myth for me. We will play in a way that, yes, we want to pass the ball. Yes, we want to move it quick. Yes, we want to get people off the seat. We want to put the ball in good areas. We want runners. We want, dynamic. That's what our team will be. Will there be times when we're under, real high pressure and we need to release and we need to put the ball into a space and get up the pitch and then work towards a throw-in, a corner, a free kick? Of course there is. Northern Premier League, it's tough. But I tell you what's a good blueprint for me is Marine are a good blueprint, because when Marine need to mix it with you, they'll mix it with you. And that's proved it. They went and mixed it with Macclesfield, and they went and got in the faces and they said, go on then, outwork us. And even when they came to Borough Park, they pressed well. They pressed in units. We'll be a counter-pressing team. Of course we will. We will want that ball back quickly, and we'll be fit enough to do that. But when Marine needed to mix it and play into an area or play to a forward, or they did it and did it successfully. They were a long ball team. They're a functional team, but it's pretty good to watch as well. And they've got it over the line. They got the job done. So we will have an identity to us. We'll be unbelievably hardworking, unbelievably structured. But we've got ball players. Of course we have. We've got Dav. You've got Stephen Rigg. You've got people who can do different parts of the game. I think if we get a tune out of Riggy, which I know we will do, there'll be times when Riggy will be a back to goal number 9, and he'll hold it and he'll bring others into play, and we'll play down the sides and we'll put balls in the box, but he'll know his role. And yeah, why would you not be geared around getting the ball into Dav because he's scored 26 goals or whatever he did last season? We'd be daft not to. So we've got to find a way of getting the ball into Dav to let him do his stuff and having other players around him. I mean, Kai Nugent, he's a super little footballer. So you're going to want him on the ball. You're going to want. So we will have lots of different layers. We'll have probably 2 systems, maybe even 3 from a formation perspective that we work on. And we've got to get all this across to a new set of players in 14 training sessions in pre-season. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's really tough, but our team will have an identity. It will be an identity that matches the town, I think. It'll be football that people want to come and watch, I think, because it'll be, a bit rock and roll, a bit dynamic. There'll be times when we're expansive. There'll be times when we take absolute great pleasure in winning 1-0 with our backs against the wall, because that's all right. And, like I said before, there is no way to play. It's a myth. The way to play is the way to try and put all those component parts together. Yes, can we play in certain times at certain areas? Can we do it quickly? Can we do it so people think, wow, that was great, one-touch stuff? But can we also try and win football matches? Because that's what we're here for.
What are your thoughts on leadership within the team, and how do you envisage standards being driven throughout the squad?
Well, standards come from us first and foremost, and we've been really clear with that with players already. There's two aspects to this. One, I think football clubs work on compliance. And that sounds really structured and really, really rigid, but they do. You know, we expect players to turn up at this time, at this date, on this place. We expect them to do this in this situation and this in that situation. We expect them to have unbelievable humility when they're in a service station for an away game. We expect them to be well behaved, well mannered. We expect them to be massively resilient. You know, you go back to Mandy's role, just in those things I've said there, that's a lot to big ask for somebody that we see twice a week and don't pay a lot of money to, really. So our standards will come from us, but they'll also be led by a leadership group within the squad as well. So obviously we've got Dav, who was captain last year, who'll be part of that, an integral part of that leadership group. We've got some really experienced players, and we will have more experienced players coming through the door as well. So I think once we're settled into pre-season, we'll have that leadership group in place. We'll have those standards. My view, and this is probably the teacher coming out of me, is that you get it right first. You get it right from minute one. You know, first impressions, those first couple of sessions are key for us. I think if you're not at those standards straight away, it's very hard to capture them after that. So we've got to make sure we get it right first time. First impressions count. And there will be players, I've no doubt, coming to the club that have worked for me before, who will know the expectations. You know, obviously, Rudders and Lanky have worked with me for a long time. They know the expectations, and that consistency from the staff is always going to be there. So leadership's going to be a key role. You know, we're going to have to go to, you know, Whitby on a Tuesday night in December when it's blowing a gale, and you've got to turn up there, and you've got to roll your sleeves up, and you've got to put a workmanlike performance in to earn the right to play. And that's going to come from characters. And what we can't have next year is not have those characters that are going to drag us over the line. And that comes with standards, and it comes with leadership.
First team, obviously the priority at any football club. What are your plans for the youth team, and how would you expect to integrate a pathway to the first team?
Yeah, I mean, it's important. I mean, first and foremost, there was nothing that I think everybody would love to see a homegrown player come all the way through our system. I know that, you know, Brian does a great job with the community in the academy and all that sort of thing. So I know that we've got good coaching there. I spoke to the under-18 staff last week, and we've started to put some ideas together of how we'll sort of bridge that gap and get more of them involved. And I've already asked for a list and got a list of sort of 6 players that they think are their best. And then we can start to integrate those as we go as well. What we have to be mindful of, and I don't want people to take this negatively at all, but the odds are massively stacked against young players who come through your own system at a non-league club. That's not to say they can't, because they absolutely can. But if you think about the players that are under 18s at pro clubs, very few of them come out of an under 18 scholarship and are good enough for Northern Premier League. Physically, mentality-wise, sometimes technically. I don't, as a rule, don't think there's many under 18 players that are good loan options for. That's not all of them, but there's very few of them that are good loan options for Northern Premier League clubs. Under 23s, yes, there are quite a lot in there that are good, but if it's that tough for a player who's been full time for 2 years in a football club to get into the Northern Premier League, that shows you how tough it is for, you know, a grassroots player coming through to get there. There will be some. And our job is to make sure that we have eyes on them and we're aware of them. We give them those opportunities, and they will get that. You know, they will get that. I know I've heard from a couple of people about a couple of local young players who have either been at the club before or you know, or not, and are worth speaking to. I think the mentality is key. You know, I spoke to a player who obviously I won't name, but I spoke to a player who'd had a spell at the club before, and they'd not really played. And I gave them a call as the right thing to do and said, listen, here's an opportunity for you. Clean slate. And their response was, yeah, you know, if I'm not going to play every week, I'm probably not going to do it. Well, this is an 18-year-old, 19-year-old boy. So I don't want players, I'll be honest, I don't want players like that. I want players who go, oh my God, there's an opportunity to go and play for the highest non-league club in the county. That's us. Here's an opportunity to go and play for Workington. I've got to go and get myself fit. I've got to go into that pre-season and really impress him. That's the mentality that I want, not the, but I'm getting a game every week at Clayton Moor or Carlisle City or, Penrith. No disrespect to any of those clubs, but we're a few steps above that. Lanky said earlier on, the Northern Premier League is as close to full-time as it's ever been. It's close to professional football as it's ever been. So what an opportunity that is for if I was a 19-year-old who wanted to make a career out of football, wanted to earn good money out of football, I'd say, Mark Pell's just rang me. I've got to get down there. But the mentality wasn't quite there, which says a lot to me. And that might be because of the experience I've had previously. I get all that. But we're the pinnacle of non-league clubs in this county. And I only want the players that have got the tenacity and the mentality to come and show themselves. And that, for me, I can work with talent, I can coach, ways of working, I can coach ways of playing. It's a bit difficult in 2 hours a week sometimes to get over that real mentality thing that we're going to need at this level of football. So yes, there will be a pathway. We're already working on it, but they've got to understand the level they're coming to. I don't think a lot of young players really do understand this level. You're going to be playing against players like David Norris, played 400 Football League games. Well, you can't come out of, a step 6 club, step 7 club, and expect to just walk into a team and play against David Norris, because he'll eat you alive, basically, because he will. So we've got to be sensible and realistic. And this is what I was saying about that honesty at the start of the call, having that honesty with people. And, if you're good enough, there'll be a pathway, but you can't just be a good footballer anymore. You've got to be, full of drive, full of hard work, full of tenacity, and that's not always the case, unfortunately.
You touched on recruitment earlier, but what are your goals for the team and the club this season?
It's really difficult for me to. Well, it's not actually. It's not. I want us to be in the mix. I want us to be able to build a team that can be. If we were sat in a position in February where we were in or in touching distance of the playoffs, I think we'd be saying, yeah, we've done a decent job here to start with, and then now can we push on? I want this club to get promoted. I think this club should get promoted. I think that who's a bigger club in this league than us? Worksop, maybe, if you put history and all that sort of thing together, maybe not budget. But I know we're going to talk about budget booster, but what a fantastic start that's made, and what a help that will be to us. Worksop Hyde, obviously Mac, but let's just hope Mac win the league by 20 points and get out of everyone's hair. But there's not. I don't think there's many bigger clubs than us. Bigger fan base, bigger history. Unbelievable backstory that the club's got. So I want us to be better than we were last year, first and foremost. I want us to be very comfortable in the division and a real player in the division. But I don't think we should be talking long term about this club getting promoted. I think that should be short to medium term. We should be looking to get this club out of this division and into the National League North.
Take a breather for a minute, Mark, and we'll come back to Graham, and I'll put the question to you. Who's the best player you've worked with in your coaching career or wanted to work with?
Well, the gaffer just mentioned his name a few minutes ago. We had Nozza for about 5 years or so, David Norris, and I was unsure, I'll be honest with you. I was unsure, and the gaffer says, no, we want him, we need him. And when he came in, he was unbelievable. He was just, his work ethic, he came in and he was 37, 38 when he came to us. And it was like a 16-year-old boy running around the training pitch and enjoying every minute of every training session, pre-season included, when he eventually came in. But, he was just, his enthusiasm for the game and his workmanlike ethic. And he said to us all the time, he says, I had an half-decent career. I played a lot of league games. I was never the best player on the pitch, but the manager knew what he was going to get out of me. And he just worked and worked and worked. And he carried on that on right through until the end of last season when he was 42-year-old and scored a hat-trick in his last game. Unbelievable. And we tried to instill into all the players, and especially the younger players, if you have that, we can work with it. Nobody's going to be, a world beater on the pitch, and everybody's at different levels with the technical ability and things like that. But if you've got a fitness level and a work ethic, any manager will have you in the team. It's, trying to instill that into, especially as some of the young lads these days, like I say, the gaffer mentioned earlier, some of the young lads, it's a completely different game of football they play to what we were all brought up on. It's a non-contact sport mostly, and he mentioned about the video, centre halves not heading it, things like that. That's not football. That's not, especially at our level, that is not football. So he used to instill that in every training session, and we wanted to do that to get every player the same. So he was unbelievable. But just another player we've sort of always admired, and whenever we did play against him, we always scored anyway. But Kurt Willoughby, he was just one of them. He's always been on our radar. We were desperate to get him at one stage. We missed out. And I personally think he could be a Football League player, but maybe that's just passed him by a bit now. But he's at the non-league level, he just scores goals for fun. And I'd love to have worked with him.
And a similar question to Craig. What would you say are the most important qualities, for a player in the squad?
I think it's just to bring the best version of them to every training session and every game. I think it's been mentioned we only get sometimes 2 training sessions a week, at times 1 when we've played on a Tuesday. So it's a very short space of time we've got to work with them. So be the best teammate you can be. Whether you've played in the most recent game or you're on the bench, the next training session, you've got to push everybody on and keep those standards high. And it's an old cliched saying, but it's not just the 11 on the pitch that bring you success. It's those people who are not involved in the games or only playing 30 minutes, 20 minutes here and there. How they train really dictates how the team does. So it's that mindset of we over me, I think, makes a very, very good football player.
Can you add to that, Billy, in your experience in the game?
No, I agree. I think it's first and foremost, like you say, anybody working at this level is a good footballer. You can't compete at this level if you haven't got the ability. But that mentality and that drive is what sets the good from the great. 100%. We've seen it for years, Steve, with the likes of Tinners, Goose, Scotty. Them lads have turned up to training every week, battered and bruised for last season, particularly. Sometimes can barely walk, and they're still coming and giving 100% every week, committing to games, limping off every week. That sort of mentality is why they played multiple hundreds of games. You don't get that without that mentality.
And that's the expectation from us. The expectation is that that's a minimum. They're the minimum requirements that's a non-negotiable for us. David Norris at 43 years old was producing data from our Playtech system, which was outrunning, out-sprinting 20-year-old lads. Well, how does that work? He's 43. So, and to be fair, Lanky's done a really good job of building Nozzer up for when I sign him in about 3 weeks as a 44-year-old, and everyone says, what's he doing here? So he's... But yeah, that's a blueprint of how to be a good footballer, because they're the things that you can control. You can't always control your technical ability, but you can control how hard you run. You can control how clever you are. I mean, I think one season we had 12 penalties out of David Norris just because he ran into good areas and fell over. He was brilliant at it. But that's just the experience and the guile, and I love all that. I love players that are a step ahead of everybody else on the pitch in their minds. And as soon as it went into certain areas, I knew it was going to happen. We did, didn't we? We knew it was going to happen. As soon as he put his body across a defender, he was going to be on the floor. And every referee bought it. And we probably, little things like that. And, there are still a lot of good players like that around. And that's sometimes you need that experience both on and off the pitch to get you through. And, Billy's absolutely right. This club's had those players. They're not here anymore. we're not in a position to to wallow about it. We're in a position to go and get the next set of those players, and whether they come from the current crop or they come from players that we bring in, which is probably more likely at the moment because we're fairly thin on the ground, then so be it. But my job is to balance off from a recruitment perspective what we need and what we want, that enthusiasm and that that pace, that drive give you, with a few old heads that are going to get you through Gainsborough on a Tuesday night or whatever, in the pouring rain, because the season's long and it brings lots of different challenges and you need characters to get you through those.
And coming back to Maddie, how would you fit into what the guys have said there and, supplement their skills with your own talents?
I think it's going back to what Mark said before about how difficult this level is nowadays for players and the kind of expectations that we have of the lads, to say that we expect them to be that resilient and perform at that level and have that motivation and attitude about them constantly is a difficult thing to ask. So I'll be there to hopefully support in that, but also to mirror that behaviour. We're all here to learn, I think is a really important thing to note, that we are all doing our best with our expertise, but we've all got so much that we can learn from each other, from the players, from everyone else around in the club. And I think that that's a nice attitude to be able to show to people that we're not all perfect. We don't know everything straight away, but we will work together to become as perfect as we can be. So that's on the pitch with the lads, but also with us guys as well, with the media stuff that we're doing, all of it. So again, that big holistic approach of just all realising that we're working towards that same goal and that we can lean on each other for help.
No, it's wider than that as well. That's about the whole club being together. If we're going to do something that's going to be really good and really special here, it's everybody. It's not me as manager. It's not these guys as staff. It's not those guys as players. Everybody. And that's why, I'm a stickler for detail and I can be dead annoying, I'm sure, to people. But, I want everything from how the ground looks to how, what PA announcements we make to, to music. I want everything to be right. I want everything to be as good as it can be, as professional as it can be. And that's about, again, going back to your earlier question, Steve, about setting standards and about setting expectations. And we will be in it together. We will have to be. We'll have to support each other. There'll be times this year when it'll be really tough. Of course there will. But it's every football season's like that. There'll be times when we're all on the floor. There'll be times when we're all jubilant, no question of that. But it's how we all stick together as a micro version of that would be squad. Wider than that, the club, the board, the staff around the ground who've been brilliant, by the way. I've spent a bit of time chatting to the guys on the pitch, and everybody working really hard for a common goal. And then wider than that, you've got the supporter base, you've got the town. So we've got to find a way. I think we're not a million miles off it, of making sure that everyone feels like they've got a role to play in this season for us to do well.
You mentioned the importance of everyone sticking together. What else can fans do other than turning up on match days to help the club progress?
Well, that's first and foremost. We want, I want it in two ways. I want a really supportive atmosphere for players, and I want a really hostile atmosphere for opponents. I always think that if we're going to get a club to come to us to Borough Park on a Tuesday night in whatever month it is, they've got to think, oh my God, don't want to go up there. Don't want to deal with them today. They're going to be on us. They're going to be in our faces. They're going to be strong. They're going to be, if we want to outplay them, they're going to be able to outplay us. If we want to mix it with them, they're going to batter us. You know what I mean? That's how we've got to set our standards, and that a little bit of that comes from supporters as well. I want them to be, a real hostile bunch at times to away players, in the right way, of course, but really getting behind the lads. This is going to be a new side, so we've got to make sure that players can associate with fans and fans can associate with players, and they feel that they're part of that. And to be fair, that's part of the mandate from Maddie and Billy and the rest of the media guys to make sure that in pre-season they start to know our players personally, whether that's through social media or whatever. that we start to build that rapport. So yeah, first and foremost, most importantly, get into Borough Park, get to that away ground. I know that the supporters club do amazing things with away travel and all that sort of thing. So make a real atmosphere for us away from home as well. We've got an engagement piece. So I want supporters to be engaged with what we're doing. I want them to, I know it's a game of opinions, football, and everyone will have one. But we want them to be engaged in it. We want people to have a view, of course. We want them to articulate their views in the right way, but we want them to have a pint with us in the bar afterwards, win, lose, or draw. We're never going to shirk anything. We're never going to hide from anything. If we don't play well, we'll still be there. That's part of our responsibility and part of our commitment to the club. And then finally, I think obviously we've got the budget booster, which is massive for us. There's no doubt that unfortunately we're not in a position where we're going to have the biggest budget. You look at Macclesfield, spending £2 million a year on wages. It's obscene, and fair play to them, by the way. I'm sure if we had a couple of benefactors that were willing to pump that sort of money in, I'd be more than happy to spend it. But it's not necessarily Macclesfield. You've got your workshops, Marine last year. There's a lot of clubs in this league who probably spend 10,000 plus a week, which is obscene numbers. We're nowhere near even half of that. So the budget boost is obviously going to help, and whether that is one player, one amazing player, which would be nice, or maybe two, really strong players that are going to make a big difference to us at key positions, or more. It obviously is dependent on what we raise, but what I would say is that I was absolutely blown away by the fact that we effectively raised 10 grand in 2 days. I've seen budget boosters for clubs that didn't raise 5 grand at all. And that gives you an indication of, I think, the way that the town, how the town feels for the club. I think it shows that the love that people have got for this football club and the real passion for the sport in the area. So, you all right with us? You all right? Back with us? Good lad.
Back with you, mate. Yeah, Cat was just battering the blinds. I
thought I was boring you. I thought you were going to bed. It shows that the passion that people have got for the club, and that I said earlier on about you don't realise how big this club is. It hit me in the face that I was like, oh my god, and I know there was a bit of a negativity around the budget booster last year, but we're not there anymore. It's an absolute new era, and we're not going to apologise for keeping saying the same things. New era, new start, new opportunity, fresh team, new outlook, professionalism as much as we can on and off the pitch. And I think we're starting to see that as well. But yeah, if people can, and I know it's really tough. I know it's really tough for some people at the moment, and I'm certainly not asking people to stretch beyond the means at all. But if there is a couple of quid that people can put in the budget booster and they can help us, then the pressure just comes onto me then to spend it properly. But yeah, we'll do it again as transparent and as honestly as we can. We'll be as open as we can with what we're doing. But yeah, if people can lend us a few quid, that would be super, giving us into pre-season, because obviously money does talk. Players aren't that, and it's a players market at the moment. I always enjoy about 3 weeks into pre-season when it's like somebody turns the tap off for the players, and all of a sudden the power comes back to the managers, and the players are now thinking, I haven't got a deal yet, and all of a sudden the emphasis is on us. So at the moment, I'm still in that uncomfortable position where players will play several teams off against each other and all kinds of things, and agents involved. But if we could top what we did last year, that would be unbelievable. Anything higher than that, and that's probably making a rod for our own back, because if we balloon that number, the expectation on us is there, not just to bring the players in, but to make sure that we're justifying and giving justice to that amount that's been spent as well. So yeah, people of Workington and beyond, if they can help us with that, that'd be unbelievable.
I think
we're well into.
Sorry, just on the question that you asked about how fans can sort of make a difference outside of the financial and stuff. the work that we're kind of doing, and we're pushing a lot on social media. We have got sort of a plan for going into pre-season, like Mark said, to better engage the fans with the players, get to know the players, the staff, things like this. Just opening it up a little bit and making it a little bit more sort of cohesive as a big unit. And the big things that the fans can do to help that is help. It ridiculously helps massively. You share posts, comment on posts. The engagement rate on the social media is quite low. The support is massive. We know that. So any help that can give, if it's shared in a post, comment on a post, like in the post, it gets it in front of more eyes. It gets us in front of more eyes, and it raises our sort of commercial viability as well for getting more people on board to help us financially. So they can help massively with that as well, even if they can't afford to help in other ways. Likes and comments are free. Just give us as many as you can.
And like you say, Billy, we'll repay you with that by giving you good content that you want to watch and that you can engage with and that will be exciting. There'll be a lot of behind the scenes stuff so that you do get to know us all, get to know the lads, and feel that connection with the club before the season starts, which is a really important thing, I think, not just for us in terms of what we do in media, but us as a backroom staff overall. So yeah, we'll repay you with hopefully some pretty decent content throughout pre-season.
And a final word from Graham.
Yeah, I mean, all I can do is echo what everyone said. You know, we want to put a product out there. You know, it's difficult at times, but you know, we are here for the long haul. We are going to give it everything we've got as a team, backroom staff, playing staff, and as like the manager says, it's not just us; it is everybody. So you know, if you know the numbers start swelling and the crowd get behind the team, you know, you always talk about the 12th man, and you know, sometimes that is so important in the tougher games, and you know, when the weather's rubbish or you're playing someone who's top of the league, it's, you know, they can be such a boost. And if we can swell the numbers, you know, unbelievable, it'd be fantastic. And like I say, we just want to put a product out there that people want to come and watch, and we will be successful.
And a final word from Craig.
Yeah, echo everything everyone's just said. I've got an office up in Workington through work, so for me it'd be nice to see a lot of our younger generation wearing the Workington shirt in and around Workington rather than seeing all the Premier League teams. So the better the product we can put out there, and the positive relationships we can make between the players, the staff, and the younger supporters and older supporters to get them shirts on around the town. When we were at Barrow and we had that promotion season, Ian Effort had a little phrase, the perfect storm. Everything happening at the same time to build that momentum. So the fans are going to be unbelievably important in that. And again, like everyone said, we're really approachable. We're really engaging, whether it be on social media or if you see us out and about. Honestly, please come and speak to us, because we enjoy that sort of thing, because we're now part of that town now. We're working as hard as we can now for the success of Workington. And that means a lot to every one of us.
Lady and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, guys.